Another summer, another deadly fire, another air conditioner under scrutiny. And this time, the national capital witnessed a tragic reminder of how a common household appliance, just like our air conditioners, can turn catastrophic within seconds. Former Competition Commission chief and ex-IS officer Dhanendra Kumar lost his life after a suspected AC blast triggered a fire inside his Delhi residence. His son survived. He's battling it out. He's in a critical situation, but the incident has once again raised a disturbing question. Are Indian homes becoming increasingly vulnerable to AC-linked fire hazards during extreme heat waves? Smoke engulfing the residence, charred furniture and burnt household sections. And increasingly, these are not isolated incidents. Across Delhi, Mumbai, Noida, Ahmedabad and several other cities, reports of AC explosions, compressor fires and short-circuit linked residential blazes have surged during peak summer months. Now, experts say there may be multiple reasons behind this dangerous trend. Continuous AC usage during heat waves, overloaded electrical circuits, poor wiring, low-quality extension boards, lack of servicing, cheap or counterfeit components and gas, dust-clogged outdoor units, and in some cases, old machines being pushed far beyond safe operating limits. What exactly causes an air condition to catch fire? Does excessive usage during 45-degree heat overload the compressors? Are stabilizers in poor household wiring the real danger? How risky are older AC units during the peak summer? And are Indian homes truly equipped for this massive surge in cooling demand? There is also an important debate around technology itself. Are inverter ACs actually safer than conventional units? Do automatic load management systems reduce overheating risks? Or are consumers simply assuming modern machines are fireproof without really understanding the maintenance risks? And then comes the human behavior factor, because in the middle of unbearable heat waves, many households now run ACs almost continuously for hours on end, sometimes even days. Very few people service their units regularly. Very few inspect wiring or sockets. And almost nobody thinks about fire risk until finally a tragedy occurs.
इस वक्त हम मौजूद हैं R15 हौज खास एनक्लेव, जो कि धनेंद्र कुमार रिटायर्ड IAS अधिकारी हैं, उनका घर है। आपको बता दें कि बुधवार की रात को इसी घर के अंदर आग लगने से उनकी मौत हो गई। उसकी वजह बना वो है AC का इंडोर ब्लास्ट होना। बताया जा रहा है कि धनेंद्र जो हैं वो अपने परिवार के साथ इस घर में रहते थे और बुधवार की रात को ग्राउंड फ्लोर पर ही यहाँ पर AC के जो इंडोर है उसमें ब्लास्ट होता है, जिसकी वजह से जो लकड़ी का फर्नीचर है वो आग पकड़ लेता है और फायर ब्रिगेड को जानकारी दी जाती है और यहाँ पर कई फायर टेंडर आते हैं, आग को बुझा लेते हैं। और इस दौरान पता लगता है कि अंदर, क्योंकि वो पूरा कमरा बंद था, AC चलने की वजह से बंद किया हुआ था, तो धुआं उठा और धुआं इनहेल काफ़ी किया है। उनको एम्स से भर्ती कराया गया, जहां इलाज के दौरान उनकी मौत हो गई। उनके जो बेटे हैं उनकी हालत बताई जा रही है कि गंभीर है। बताया जा रहा है कि यहाँ पर जो IAS हैं रिटायर्ड अधिकारी, उनके का परिवार और कुल उस वक्त घटना के वक्त 5 लोग थे। और जब ये आग लगी और आग लगने से ग्राउंड फ्लोर पर पूरा फर्नीचर जल गया। देखिए उसका कुछ हिस्सा जो है वो यहाँ पर भी इस वक्त पड़ा नजर आ रहा है, जो कि दिखने में लग रहा है कि बेड है। और इस घटना में जो रिटायर्ड अधिकारी हैं उनकी मौत हो गई है। तो ऐसे में आपसे भी गुजारिश है, क्योंकि गर्मियों का मौसम है, कई बार जो पारा है वो 45 डिग्री के ऊपर पहुंच रहा है। अगर आप भी AC का इस्तेमाल करते हैं तो उपकरणों को चेक करते रहें, ताकि अगर कोई खामी है तो पता लग जाए, क्योंकि जो AC आपको आराम देता है वो अगर ख़राब हो जाए या उसमें कोई खामी आ जाए तो आपकी जान पर भी भारी पड़ सकता है।
And like we've been mentioning, this is not an isolated incident anymore. In just the last 1 year, multiple AC-linked fire tragedies have been reported across India. We're talking about the Khas case, of course. Former Competition Commission Chief Dhanendra Kumar lost his life. In Greater Noida, an AC explosion gutted an entire house. In Vivek Vihar, a suspected AC-linked fire inside a residential building killed 9 people, including children. And in Faridabad, an AC compressor explosion wiped out an entire family. The larger concern now is whether India's urban infrastructure, both electrical and residential, is prepared for rising temperatures and exploding AC usage. Are AC fire incidents becoming India's new urban summer hazard? We've got an esteemed set of panelists with us on the broadcast, and we'll try and underscore, is poor maintenance and unsafe wiring putting millions of homes at risk? And should stricter safety checks, servicing norms and public awareness now become mandatory before the next tragedy finally strikes. Let's open this up with our guest tonight, Professor P.S.N. Rao, Dean, School of Planning and Architecture, with us on the broadcast, Dr. Naveen Bhatnagar, former DIG NDRF and Chairman Blue Cross Safety Management, and Joseph Hoover, environmentalist. Many thanks, Mr. Hoover, for taking out the time. Professor Rao, let's get the snowball rolling here. First and foremost, Indian cities, let's throw some light on them, and residential buildings specifically. Structurally, are these actually prepared for the rising fire risks that come with extreme heat waves and our dependence indirectly on air conditioners?
Yeah. What's happening is that we are increasingly becoming a power consuming society in a very, very big way, because we are dependent on a wide variety of gadgets. And amongst all these gadgets, if you look at the air conditioners, they are those gadgets which consume the maximum amount of power. And it's not just one air conditioner. Today, almost every room in our houses, in almost all the houses, has an air conditioner. So the total power load in a given flat is actually very, very high. And there are a wide variety of reasons for this. Firstly, if we start with the way in which our houses were built in the earlier days, they had high ceilings, they had ventilators and so on, so you could manage the heat. But today, unfortunately, for a wide variety of reasons, the way we are building homes, we are actually building matchboxes which are really very, very hot in the peak summers. And for a wide variety of other reasons, our cities are actually becoming much more hotter than they used to be in the earlier days. So air conditioning has become a necessity. And with EMI schemes and with more disposable income,
affordability has gone up as well. Affordability has gone up.
We are all dependent on air conditioners all the time. And if your infrastructure is not designed for the air conditioners, then obviously it's going to break down at some point in time. So you have the wiring, you have the power fluctuations, because every house is consuming enormous amount of electricity, because all air conditioners are put into play. And then what about the MCBs? They are designed to protect and to ensure that the tripping happens.
Yeah.
But then if you don't maintain your air conditioners on a regular basis, because that is very important, even if you are running the air conditioner continuously, if you are not cleaning the pads, if you are not regularly cleaning the fins and so on, then the compressor will do an overload, because you want at 23, not at or you want at 22, not at maybe 27 or something like that. So you don't. So there are multiple of factors, and all these come together. And then when the gas refilling is done, there again we are not using the good quality gas. We are using inferior quality gas. So all these contribute to these kind of accidents. And once the accident happens, then only then what is the kind of a damage. And this is the most unfortunate incident that we've seen here in Khas. My heartfelt condolences to the family. But then I think maintenance is something which is extremely important.
So Professor, what you're essentially saying is that this is a cascading effect.
Whatever you need to do, you have to do it on time. And periodically, every year, you need to do a checking, and you need to get it done through a competent, experienced mechanic, and not any Tom, Dick and Harry who's available around the street corner. Having said that, the transformers which are in our neighborhoods, they also need to be upgraded. Unfortunately, in many places, we still are using the age-old transformers which are oil-based and so on. So there also technology change is required. So I think a whole lot of factors, they contribute together to these kind of
amalgamation of all of this is what you're saying, Professor. It's a cascading effect. Firstly, we're living in matchbox societies in residential areas that look like matchboxes. On top of that, our shift in lifestyle and our dependence on these appliances, where the power grid is not being upgraded, but our appliances at home are being upgraded. And then finally comes the air conditioning etiquette that you just spoke about. We need to aware ourselves in what is a good etiquette when you're talking about air conditioners. And mind you, we now have 5 air conditioners in a house that only has 4 rooms. So, let me bring in other players as well. Dr. Bhatnagar, what's your assessment here? From a disaster response perspective, AC-related fires, they're becoming more frequent during the peak Indian summers and heat wave periods. And I must flag this right here because, we heard a lot of neighbors in Hauz Khas on that fateful night that took place, that AC blast that took the life of the ex-IS officer. It took about 25 to 30 minutes for the first fire responder to even reach there.
Actually, already red alert and orange alert warnings has been issued by the IMD.
That's right.
So because the temperature is too high and fire dome is there, especially in the northern area. So it means fire dome means a heavy and massive this heat comes in the lower area and doesn't go up. So that is why the appliances, this type of appliances, which are we are using in the open area like your split AC. So they are very much aware about it and they are directly hitting this thing. So without the servicing of this AC, we should not use it. Secondly, we should take care about it that limited speed should be there and as per the norms issued by the government and we have not seen that in most of the societies they are using this fire alarm system and whether as well as the your this thing your this circuit breaker system
Yeah.
which is required mandate. But here in this maximum area we have seen in the audit and the inquiry we have found that these things were absconding, were not installed. That is why such a thing happened. So anyhow, but this thing should be taken care about it. And the government is already issuing the orders. Fire department is issuing the orders. But people are very much reluctant in the using the apprentices, these appliances, the mechanic, and their job and servicing. All these things are missing.
You're absolutely
That
right,
is why-
Dr. Bhatnagar. It's just that in sweltering heat conditions, look at how the national capital was under blistering heat over the last 5-6 days. What is a person supposed to do? Of course, there is the emission aspect of it all, which is why we have Mr. Hoover with us also on the broadcast. But one has to make do with these ACs as well. I'm going to come back to you to understand how can we, what are some of those steps that one has to take, because the inhalation of smoke seem to be the main, catastrophic cause here. But Mr. Hoover, you see, Indian cities are becoming hotter year after year. The environmentalist with us on the broadcast, and great to see you're surrounded by plants yourself. Year after year, we're entering an era where excessive AC dependence itself is becoming the norm. But at the same time, it's also becoming and adding a risk to this urban life and our urban risk cycle. Recurring heat waves, rising urban temperatures, indirectly increasing the stress load on household cooling. I mean, something's got to give. It's like this is we talk about a win-win situation. This is a lose-lose situation.
See, it's very unfortunate that we have lost a retired IS officer. But again, it comes back to the point, why are people using ACs excessively? It's obvious that the heat is rising across the Indian landscape. Everybody's been talking about it. Now we are talking about in excess of 40, 45 degrees across India.
That's the new normal.
So that itself is an indication of how far we have gone. Now, the point here is, it has to be very, very clearly defined, is that we have allowed this to happen. If we are in a heat wave and we are in a heat kind of a scenario, we have to blame. We are allowing the government to do whatever it wants to do. It's destroying a forest, left, right, center. You want development, yes. You want urban development, yes. But not at the cost of your trees, not at the cost of your environment.
Yeah.
Yes, as Mr. Professor Rao really said, that we are now living in matchboxes. We don't have space for other amenities at all.
Yeah.
Now, going back to environment, I would rightly tell you, because I was in Delhi recently, and that was a shock for me. It was a rude shock. I landed at about 11 o'clock on the 22nd of May, and it was 43 degrees.
Yeah.
And by the time I was leaving, even at 6:30, it was 39 degrees. And I was just asking myself, how do people live in this kind of condition? So I felt so miserable. I said, how have we allowed ourselves to be in this scenario?
Yeah.
We as people, as citizens, have just sat quiet. We allowed it to happen. Now we have no escape. This is only increase. The heat
This is
wave,
penance.
we were
This is
talking about
penance.
45
Is
degrees.
that what you're saying? This is penance.
Yeah, we are going to be in more difficulties in the future times to come because this 45 degrees is just a benchmark. It is going to go up.
Yeah.
The way we have destroyed our environment around India, taken from the Himalayas to the Aravallis to the Western Ghats, everywhere everything has been smashed. Yes, we want development, but let there be scientific development. Unscientific development is causing a lot of damage, and we need to respect that. We need to respect nature. If we keep continuing destroying nature, we
Yeah.
are going to pay the price. And unfortunately, we are in a scenario today that is no escape from it. Sorry to tell you this.
Are you saying, Mr. Hoover, that this is irreversible? This is the new norm. We better start, accepting that this is going to be our future.
Yes, yes, it is. We are already into that. We are neck deep into trouble. They have allowed this to happen. And if we have to change that, each and every one of us have to ensure that our environment is protected. We want people to speak up. We need to ensure by just planting a sapling is not going to help us. In 20 years, we'll get ecological value. But
Well,
we need to save each and every tree that is away that God has given us. So
you're
that is the
absolutely right. You're
commitment we
absolutely
need to
right,
have.
Mr. Hoover. We're neck deep in this trouble, but coming back to the AC blast and the AC fire, because like you suggested, it's going to go even more higher than the usual 42, 43 that we see today. And I think the consumer reflex that Professor Rao was talking about, we're going to start buying more air conditioners, the EMIs that, Professor Rao was talking about. Professor Rao, you see, how much of this problem is linked to the unplanned urbanization? You spoke about the matchboxes earlier. Let's throw some more light on that. Concrete heatlands. You've got AC emissions inside these concrete walls that's adding to extra heat. The climate change is something that people can't stop talking about. And then you've got rising unsustainable energy consumption patterns without really upgrading our own power grids. How do we change this? Should urban planning regulations now mandate stricter fire readiness norms, especially in the high density residential clusters, the aging buildings, and of course, let's start banning the aging appliances themselves. We need some sort of regulation to come into place here.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that there are a host of things that we need to do. Just as we are saying that we need to phase out old diesel cars and petrol cars and so on, we also probably have to phase out these old air conditioners. But more than that, I think there are so many other dimensions to this. If you look at the city of Delhi alone, and the situation is not very different in other large metropolitan cities, we have about 40 lakhs of people who are living in unauthorized colonies where the road width is hardly maybe 3 or 4 meters. So, God forbid there is a fire accident there. There's just no way in which people are going to run out of the place.
Yeah.
All these unauthorized colonies, which are there, 1,800 of them. I mean, it's a disaster waiting to happen any moment. That is number one. Number two is that globally today we are talking about heat action plans or urban cooling plans. So every city has to have a plan as to how are we going to cool our city. So I think amongst the states, Telangana is probably one of the first states where they have a cooling action plan in place. Where how do you take care of your roofs? How do you they're mandated that all roofs need to be painted white, and you need to have green roofs, and there's a green roof plan. So a lot of proactive steps you need to prevent. So preventive action is extremely important. After the fire has already come, and then the fire engine will come and put out the fire and all, that by the time the person is already dead and gone. So
Yeah.
preventive measures, a series of these preventive measures have to be taken. And also we need to build right. Unfortunately, the way we are building, we have only 8 feet high ceiling homes where it becomes like a hot chamber and without an. So passive cooling methodologies. So how do you build in these cities which are having very high temperatures in summers? So we are flouting all the first principles of architecture, unfortunately, and the way we are building. We need to at least because what you already built, you can't pull it down. So at least there you have some retrofitting measures like more greenery and painting the buildings. There are some cities in the Gulf where all the roads are actually painted with a particular paint, so that the temperature that is reflected, the heat that is reflected from the road surfaces, which constitute a huge area in the city, that comes down by a couple of degrees. So we need to take these steps. What are we doing actually? We are not really doing any of these things.
Yeah.
Paint buildings in white color, and
Fair point.
there are a series of steps that we can do. And also, as a common man, uh, what are those things? What are those 5 or 6 things that I need to do uh, uh, in the event of me having air conditioners at home? So that also, many people, there's a lot of lack of awareness, unfortunately, and of course people don't want to spend on maintenance. See, maintenance is actually not really very expensive if you see it that way, except probably for refilling the gas. 400, 500 rupees, 600 rupees, you can have one air conditioner washed and checked up by a good
Yeah, yeah,
electrician.
yeah.
So it's not really such an expensive thing other than filling up the gas. So why people are not doing it? So you need to take all these steps. Citizens have to take certain steps. The local government has to take certain steps. And then even when you're building new buildings, I think the building regulations, the local building bylaws, all these have to change. So we need to take this seriously.
You're
Otherwise,
absolutely right. You're
cities are
absolutely
going to
right,
become
Professor. The
unlivable.
time is nigh. The government needs to do more. The common man out there needs to do more. The local authorities need to do more. I just hope and wish and pray that good sense prevails and we can, pick up on the example of the Gulf that you gave us. Maybe other governments can follow, in the footsteps of the Telangana government. This cooling methodology framework is something that the governments now need to adopt as a proper mandate, because at least specifically for the hotter cities and the hotter metropolitans. Dr. Bhatnagar, in incidents like the Delhi case that we're talking about, smoke inhalation became fatal, and smoke inhalation often is the biggest killer before victims even get a chance to escape. So what are the most critical mistakes that families make in the first few minutes? Because this is a rising phenomenon. Let's educate the viewers out there as well. What are the most critical mistakes happening in the first few minutes? What can people change specifically when it comes to an indoor electrical fire situation?
Yeah. So what happened whenever such fire blown? So a lot of carbon monoxide comes out. So when you will run or you will try to escape from that area, or you will feel that I'll escape running from that area. So what happened? You will inhale so many carbon monoxide in your chest and
Yeah.
tongue and your chest and your this thing.
Yeah.
That is why the complete area will be blocked with this carbon monoxide, and you will be fainted in the then and there. Whereas it is required that immediately some handkerchief or some cloth you should put near your mouth, your the nose. That is why this you can escape yourself from that particular carbon monoxide. Then you can run or you can came out. But here, I think this gentleman don't have the time, and in this immediately he was unconscious and he was unable to take the decision. It happened like that in this such type of aged people. So he was inhaled, and that is why this chest and neck and all the tongue and
So what can one
your
do, Dr. Bhatnagar? What should one do instantly? Imagine smoke is filling up inside a room. There's an indoor electrical fire. What are some of the first things that we need to do? The go-tos, the holy
Yeah.
grail.
Yeah, so immediately he should come out with the putting some cloth over his nose and mouth, and he should try to come out in the monkey chal. Monkey chal means not the upper, because this hot air goes up the upper side. So
Yeah.
there is a 3 feet area, is a safe zone. So from the ground. So from the ground, this 3 feet area is safer, and in the monkey chal, he should come out in this particular this thing, fire incidents. So and he should make calm and quiet. He should not have this fury or some dangerous, or he should not feel
So you're saying
any.
you're saying cover your mouth. Also,
Yeah.
crawl out, because the first 3 feet are,
Yeah.
a safer zone because the hot air is rising. And at the same time, I think you also mentioned that, you shouldn't be panicking. You shouldn't use all the oxygen that you already have at that moment.
Exactly. When he will go out safely, so immediately he should take the long, your breathing, long breathing, so that if there is any particular carbon monoxide, some stuff is there, so it will go out, or he will inhale the oxygen, and he can be. There are so many.
Okay. I hope the viewers pick on that. Those are some, really crucial points. Mr. Hoover, this discourse, this particular case, it's ultimately forced us and the city specifically to rethink not just about fire safety, but also about long-term climate resilience. And you earlier painted a rather grim picture, and rightly so. I wouldn't have you do it any other way. But when we talk about sustainable cooling infrastructure, just like Professor Rao spoke to us, would you like to add to that list? What are things that we can do, basic steps, and really educate the viewers here?
Yes, as Professor Rao clearly said, there are ways we can really come out of this scenario. We need to apply ourselves, apply our mind to that, because across the world, if you see, they know if there is a scenario like this, what do we do? How are we prepared for this? So we have to prepare the citizens for this. Because in this case, you see, you don't have time. At that point in time, when something happens, you can't even think. I've been in fire situations in the forest. And as Dr. Brattakar rightly said, you need to crawl. The moment you get up, you're going to inhale carbon monoxide.
Yeah.
So that is one way of doing it. But as it is, the government needs to bring in these regulations. As the building bylaws needs to be changed, a lot of things have to be done. But everything again boils down to, because we, as I earlier said, we are in a situation where we are already stuck. It's going to be very, very difficult to hope to come out of it. But how are we going to build towards it? How are we going to be resilient towards that? So that is where we need to start. We need to start thinking, yes, today if I plant at least 20 years from now, there is going to be some oxygen at least coming. There's going to be some cooling happening. So nature is the best coolant. Whatever you do, your AC, your fans or coolers or whatever you have, they don't replace, because I live in an area where I have a lot of plants around. There is a microclimate. If the temperature is about 38 degrees outside, in my house, it's less than 32 degrees. I live in a microclimate. So we can create, because we have got things in a place in such a way that for even any eventuality, we are ready for it. So this is where we need to prepare ourselves. But first and foremost, I would request all your viewers, start thinking that we need to be protecting nature, because nature is what protects us.
Absolutely.
We have destroyed nature and we are paying the price today. So it's not too late. Even today, we can start planting and taking care of those saplings till they become ecological valuable to us. And also, we have to ensure that the government does not destroy any more forest landscapes, because in India, we barely have 20% of our landscape under forests. As for the national forest policy, it should be 33%, where you have less than 20%. So this is where we need to start as a human race to say, we need to protect ourselves. And where we can protect ourselves is by protecting nature. Yeah. And there's no option, because your ACs are not going to be any viable. Your fans, your coolers are no match.
You're absolutely right. You disrespect Mother Nature, and you've got it coming. And we've seen it time and again. Look at the Manali floods. Look at every time we've sort of, dilly-dallied with the way of the nature, it comes back and strikes us back even harder. So we've discussed what we need to do in case of an indoor electrical fire. We've understood why these AC blasts are happening, the climate change phenomenon, the urban, building bylaws, and the urban, risk factor that we're creating for our own selves. Professor Rao, before we wrap this up, the final word to you. What's your PSA? All cameras to you. What's your message before we wrap this segment up?
See, there's also another thing that is very important. In the cities, the electricity dependence is increasing by leaps and bounds. So every year, the electricity demand in a given situation, in a given city, in a given urban area is increasing like anything, and we are unable to produce so much amount of power. So there are electricity cuts, there are voltage fluctuations.
Yeah,
so
neither is the power grid being able to harness all of that electricity, Professor. I mean, look at the power cuts in UP and Delhi NCR.
Correct. Correct. So I think our electrical infrastructure at a city level, that also needs to be upgraded so that you are having a continuous stream of power, and the power fluctuations are reduced, because those also contribute to these kinds of fires, and sometimes even there are transformer blasts. These are quite common these days, and for hours together there's no power at all. So at the city level, at the regulatory level, at the environmental level, and at the domestic level, I think at all these levels we need to we need to wake up, and we need to start putting our act in place, so that down the line, I think we
Yep.
will be able to address
Yep.
these
Yep. Yep.
issues.
All right, all right. You see, as our cities grow hotter and our dependence on cooling grows deeper, this is no longer just a household issue. It's an environmental, infrastructure, and a regulatory challenge, because in the age of extreme heat, and this is only going to go up, just like Mr. Hoover said, safety cannot remain optional. One warning ignored, one short circuit that is, that goes unnoticed can prove absolutely devastating. I think we're going to leave it there. I hope that the message goes far and out to all the viewers out here.